thank everyone for joining me here today for this virtual day of scholarship. My project this year is focused on the importance of introspection as a part of interfaith leadership. Now, I'll be telling you my personal story of looking deeper into my own beliefs, as well as sharing with you the answers from individuals who I had the pleasure of interviewing for this project. The questions for these interviews, as well as my research, are both based around a couple of questions. The first being, was Jesus married? And why is this important to Christians? Does this question really matter? About 2 summers ago, I saw a documentary entitled The Gospel of Jesus' Wife, which caught my interest and made me think about a part of my faith as a Christian that I hadn't before. This project was geared toward taking this feeling of introspection and sharing it with others using the same question of, was Jesus married? So I'm going to present you with arguments for both sides of this debate, and the conclusion is up to your own interpretation. This question is worth asking because it would be something new to find out about Jesus. The answer could also make us think differently about the Christian church throughout the years. While men's roles became more prominent over time, why were women's roles diminished? And if Jesus were married, shouldn't that tell us how important women should be in Christianity? In fact, many Christian traditions are based on the assumption that Jesus was single. However, nowhere in the Bible does it say anything about Jesus' marital status. Throughout history, many who've claimed Jesus was married have been named heretics. And here are the facts that most scholars will agree on. Jesus was from Nazareth in Galilee. He was Jewish, which is very important to know. He was a carpenter by trade, and he was baptized by John the Baptist, and he was crucified under the prefect Pontius Pilate. And that's basically it. However, according to many scriptures, we think that Jesus traveled all over, and that he healed people, which gained him many followers, which were both men and women. Something important to know is that women seem to have an important role in the earliest days of Christianity, as there is this group of women with Jesus at so many important moments that are mentioned in the Bible. The most popular arguments for why Jesus was not married stem from a verse in the Gospel of Matthew, which you can see right here in front of you. Jesus talks about those who essentially are choosing celibacy as to only work for God, and they're doing so justly, according to Jesus. Now, many scholars Christians rather, will think that Jesus here is talking about himself, as he did in many verses of Scripture that you can find in the Bible, specifically in the New Testament, obviously. Some also think that Jesus deliberately chooses celibacy because of the intrigue that he had in the Essenes, who were a group of Jewish men who lived in the desert and were celibate. A prominent member of this group that you may know goes by John the Baptist, who was Jesus' cousin, which further supports this argument that Jesus had at least an interest in this group. The organized canon was also in circulation before any documents that are used when arguing that Jesus was married, such as the Gnostic Gospels, which you can see here in front of you. These Gospels were dated and written according to most experts around 150 AD, or after 150 AD, around the 3rd and 4th centuries. So how much can we really rely on these texts? The Gospel of Philip, however, this to pull up, is a big reason why many think that Jesus was married specifically to Mary Magdalene, and it's because of the verse that you can see here. The Greek word for companion, koinonos, is argued to mean wife in the context that you see in the Gospel of Philip, which leads to a lot of debate about this short little passage that you're reading in front of you. The Gospel of Jesus' Wife is a small fragment of papyrus written in Coptic, where it mysteriously has Jesus explicitly using the words, "my wife." And this is the document which sparked my intrigue for this project, especially since this document dated back to around 600 Common Era after 2 attempts to date it. And you can see in front of you here, this is basically all that this small piece of fragment says. And perhaps the most basic argument may be the best one for this question. Jesus was Jewish, and Jewish men were usually married, especially rabbis. In talking to Rabbi Rick Kellner, who assisted me in my research, he told me that the Talmud explicitly tells us that rabbis were married, and that predates Jesus. Therefore, why wouldn't Jesus be married? He's called rabbi several times in the New Testament, so it would make sense that he would be married. I interviewed 3 well-educated Christians, each from a different denomination, Protestant, Catholic, and Orthodox, in order to grow in my interfaith leadership and to discuss the importance of exploring deep questions with them. I asked them each these 4 basic questions. Now, they all said that according to their traditions, and after hearing the arguments for both sides, in their hearts they believed that Jesus was not married. Father Paul Noble and Reverend Lee Finnegan Hosey each expressed that in Catholicism and in the Protestant Church, single men were often thought to be the first preachers because Jesus was not married. Dr. Edith Humphrey says that in the Orthodox Church, being celibate is thought of as being something that is very honorable to those who choose it. But it also shows Jesus' divinity, in that he rejects humanly marriage for himself, but he still preaches about the importance of holy marriage. Everyone also said that although most aspects of their faith would not change, it would probably change some of the way we looked at Jesus or his teachings. Dr. Humphrey even believes that for many Orthodox Christians, this would take away from Jesus' divinity if he were married, because it makes him seem more human than previously thought. And finally, the big question. For this project at least. Is it important to challenge our own spiritual beliefs? It was unanimous that we should challenge our beliefs. However, there was a common theme among the reason why, which is the most interesting. First, we should challenge our beliefs because it can connect us with a part of our faith we previously didn't know existed. And second, that we shouldn't question our faith just to doubt our own critically thinking minds. But we do it so that we can look for answers to the hard questions, which I think is a great way to say how crucial it is to look deeper into our own beliefs. I'd like to thank all of those who participated in this project, as well as my advisor, Dr. Jane Webster, and I hope that each one of you viewing this project stays safe during this time. I'd like to thank you for joining me and thank you for your attention.